Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for all the love on my first video. I really appreciate it. So it's inspired me to come back to you today with a slow restorative yoga stretch sequence for the upper body. So I'd imagine since so many people are currently working from home and self-isolating, that lots of people are spending time crouched over their laptops, maybe spending a little bit more time than usual watching television. You're not the only one. Or maybe spending a little bit more time than usual reading, which would be nice. But unfortunately, all of these things involve to a contribution of excess tension, tightness, and stress in the neck, the shoulders, and the upper back. So today's sequence will be working through some yoga postures to help relieve any tension or tightness in those areas. And we'll be starting as usual in an easy, comfortable seat. So find your way to any position that feels comfortable. Maybe that's cross-legged, maybe it's coming back to sit on the heels of the feet. So any variation that feels comfortable to you. Bring the palms of the hands to the knees. We'll begin with some nice easy breathing, so softening the eyelids closed. And just take a few moments to begin to become aware of the pace and the quality of your inhalations and exhalations. See if you can invite a little bit more breath into the body. With each and every inhale, allowing the lower belly and the chest and the lungs to inflate, allowing the ribs to expand. And it may already be that if you've been working today, or depending on what activity you've been doing, that you may already have a certain amount of tension in the shoulders. So with each and every exhale, see if you can begin to tune into that sensation of drawing the shoulders down and away from the ears. So it should almost feel as though somebody's pressing a pair of hands onto the top of your shoulders. So we're finding length in the neck. And it may be that a certain amount of activation in the back is required here as you exhale to press the shoulders away. That might involve squeezing the muscles either side of the spine to draw the shoulder blades together and down the back toward the waist. Take a few more rounds of breath in this fashion and just see if you can allow yourself some moments to lengthen through the neck. Find a little bit more softness in the shoulders. And on your next inhale, gently blink the eyes open. We're going to start with a relatively straightforward neck stretch. So we'll start by dropping the right ear down towards the right shoulder, nice and slowly. So this is a really subtle movement, but this might actually occasion intense sensation in the neck or in the shoulders or in the upper body. If you're here and it doesn't feel like an awful lot is going on yet, you can take your right hand, bring it all the way up and around to the left side of the face, and just bring a really gentle amount of pressure to the side of the head to find a little bit more length through the left side of the neck. As you start to feel more comfortable here, you might like to start crawling the left fingertips out and away from the body along the mat. Find a little bit more length from the crown of the head to the tips of the left fingers. And as you soften in here, you might start to feel as though you can release the head. Bring the right fingertips down to the ground and simply allow the force of gravity to operate on the head. So we're not pulling, we're not stretching, We're simply allowing that right ear to fall down towards the shoulder. Allow gravity to do the work for you. On your next inhale, start to lift the head back up to neutral position. Bring the palms of the hands back to the knees and we'll work our way over to the opposite side. Exhaling gently to drop the left ear now down towards the left shoulder. Nice and slowly. Take a few deep breaths to find some length through the right side of the neck, and you may need to adjust the chin slightly, maybe tilting it down towards the chest to take that stretch into the back of the neck a little bit more, or maybe lifting the chin towards the sky and taking that stretch more into the front of the shoulder. So every individual will hold their tension or tightness in the upper body differently. So play around with this stretch and see how this feels in your own neck. Again, options to add on, lifting up the left arm, bringing a little bit of light pressure to the right side of the face, just to guide that ear a little bit closer to the shoulder. Find some more length through the right side of the neck. And once again, maybe crawling the right fingertips out along the mat, aiming for length all the way from the tips of the fingers to the crown of the head. Work with the breath here with each and every exhalation. See if you can release any tension or tightness that you encounter in the body. One more breath. And then if it feels nice to exhale and release the left fingertips down. Take a couple more breaths and just allow the force of gravity to operate on the upper body here. Allow the left ear to drop down toward the left shoulder. And just see if you can find any more length in the right side of the neck here for one or two more breaths. On your next inhale, start to gently guide the head back to center. Ooh, notice how this feels in both sides of the neck. So we haven't even done an awful lot of movement yet, but we carry a lot of our tension in the neck, so that might already have felt fairly intense. Now we're going to stay seated for our next posture. I'll just come to the side so that you can see a little bit more clearly what we're going to be doing next. We want to swim the arms all the way around to the back, interlace the fingertips, and then start to press the knuckles away from the nape of the neck and down towards the earth. So there will be a certain amount of activation in this posture in the upper body. We're activating through the arms to draw them away from the body, pressing the knuckles towards the earth. And in doing so, we may find a little bit more space for our shoulders, drawing them down and away from the ears, squeezing the shoulder blades together and down the back toward the waist. So stay and breathe here for another couple of moments. And once you've found your way in, and it might feel nice then to release through the back of the neck or the cervical spine by dropping the chin down toward the chest. So resisting the urge to hold on to any tightness in the neck or the head now, just allow the head to drop down completely loose, completely passive. Find some space for the back of the neck. Allow the upper spine to decompress, find space between each and every vertebra. In the meantime, pressing down through the knuckles of the hands. Take one more breath here. And exhale, release the arms. Nice and slowly bring the palms of the hands back to the knees. And we'll release from this one by taking a few easy circles with the shoulders and the breath. Inhaling to hug the shoulders up and around the ears, and exhaling to drop them down the back. Inhale, roll the shoulders forwards and up around the ears, and exhale to roll them away. One more time. Inhale, squeeze the shoulders up, And exhale to roll them down the back. So we're going to stay seated for our next stretch, our next posture. But before we do so, if you are taking a cross-leg seat here, let's just switch out the legs and bring the opposite foot in front, just to make sure that we're balancing evenly through the hips. So even if this might feel like a very subtle stretch for the hips, we are still contributing to the balance of the body in doing so. So switching out here, and the next upper body stretch that we're going to come into is eagle arms. So we'll begin by looping the left arm underneath the right and sort of stacking the elbows one on top of the other. Option number one is to bring the backs of the hands to touch here, if this already feels like an intense stretch. If you feel like you can come a little bit deeper, you can take a double wrap here and bring the palms of the hands to touch in front of the face. So once you arrive, stay and breathe here. This might already feel like quite an intense stretch for the upper back. We're broadening through the shoulder blades. And the longer you stay and breathe here, the more space might feel like it's becoming available. And if that is the case, you can use each and every inhale to lift the elbows a little bit higher, and each and every exhale to press the fingertips away from the face. So they won't come particularly far away. I'll just come to face the side again so that you can see a little bit more clearly. So the best that we can hope for is just almost by aiming for a perpendicular angle there in the arms at the angle of the elbows. Inhaling to lift the elbows a little bit higher and exhaling to press the fingertips away. The lazier we start to feel in this posture, the more the hand starts to fall back into the face and the elbows start to fall down. You'll still get a little bit of a release here, but if you want to find that really deep stretch, rolling the shoulders down the back, lifting the elbows and engaging the fingertips will give you a little bit more to work with here. Take one more inhale. And exhale, release the hands nice and slowly, raining the fingertips back down to the knees. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And an easy exhale out through the mouth. We'll come back to face the center. We'll take the same posture to the opposite side now. So looping this time the right arm underneath the left. Option number one again to bring the backs of the hands to touch. Option number two to wrap the hands all the way around so that the palms of the hands come to touch in front of the face. Eagle arms to the opposite side. So take this nice and slowly. Notice how it feels on this side. Everyone has one side that feels a little bit different, at least to the opposite side. Maybe this feels tighter, maybe it feels looser. So start nice and easily, and as you begin to inhale, as we did on the opposite side, start to lift through the spine, roll the shoulders down the back, lift the elbows in space, and press the fingertips a little bit further away from the face. So once again, I'll come to face this side, and we can see what's going on here in a little bit more detail. So I'm a little bit tighter on this side, hence my elbows are a little bit lower in space. See if you can work with the breath with each and every inhale. You can try inviting a little bit more space into the stretch with each and every exhale, energizing through the fingertips, softening any tightness or tension that you encounter in the shoulders or the upper back. So take a couple more breaths here at your own pace. And gently exhaling to release the fingertips, raining them down to the knees. Take a deep inhale through the nose. And exhale out through the mouth. So So this time we're going to start to find our way into tabletop position. So coming lengthways on the mat if you're not there already. Stacking the wrists under the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips. And begin to activate by pressing down through the palms to lift the chest. We tend to become a little bit lazy in tabletop sometimes. That's counterproductive for the shoulders and the back as well. So the belly might start to sag down or the chest might start to sag down. Press the earth away through the palms of the hands, lift and broaden through the upper back, and start to engage the core by hugging the belly button back toward the spine. You may start to find a little bit more length for the lumbar spine in this way. So once you find your neutral tabletop, we'll begin to sequence through cat-cow. So as you inhale, begin to drop the belly down toward the ground, lifting the gaze and lifting the tailbone. And from this posture, we can engage the upper body in particular a little bit more by squeezing the shoulder blades together and down the back and drawing the chest forward. So instead of being here, we want to feel like we're pulling the palms back, pulling the shoulder blades back, drawing the chest forwards. As you exhale, curl through the spine, tuck the tailbone under, soften the head and neck completely between the upper arms. So allow the head and neck to fall completely soft. And continue to sequence here at your own pace of breath. We'll take 2 more rounds. Inhaling to lift the gaze and lift the tailbone. Exhaling to press the earth away, tucking the tailbone under. Inhaling to draw the chest through between the upper arms, squeezing the shoulder blades down the back. And exhaling to draw the belly button back toward the spine, rounding through the back. And inhale here to return to a neutral spine. We're going to sink back into child's pose, so bringing the big toes to touch and maybe taking a nice wide stance by walking the knees toward the outer edges of the mat. Gently start to sink the hips back to the heels, stretch the arms out in front of the body. And begin to focus on the sensation of dropping the chest and dropping the forehead down towards the earth. So the forehead may not make contact. At first you may be somewhere up here, particularly if the chest, if the back and if the hips are tight. And gradually with each and every exhale, you may find that you can begin to soften the chest a little bit closer to the earth. Drop the forehead down, maybe it makes contact. An option to stay and breathe here in your child's pose, if that feels nice. We can also modify this posture to find a little bit more engagement in the upper body by lifting up to the tips of the fingers, tenting the palms of the hands. So what this does is it creates a little bit more space for the chest so that we can stretch more deeply into the shoulders. Sending that stretch down into the middle back as well. It's so important here to continue to work with the breath. So visualize drawing the inhale all the way down to the spine, all the way into the lower back. And as you exhale, visualize that breath climbing back up the spine. Take a couple more breaths here at your own pace. So begin to bring the palms flat to the earth, lifting back up to tabletop. So really important here to walk the knees back in. We're stacking them again underneath the hips. We want everything to stay straight here for this next posture, which is called puppy pose. So it's a variation in many ways on child's pose. We want to make sure that the hips stay aligned directly above the knees, and we want to walk the fingertips further forwards in space so that we can invite a deeper stretch into the shoulders and the chest this time by melting the chest again down towards the earth. Now by keeping the hips high, we're inviting a much more intense stretch into the upper body. So it may be an option to modify here if you need to bring a block or a prop, a book of some sort or a cushion maybe underneath the forehead, and that can help to give you a bit of extra support as you Allow the chest some more time to find its way down toward the earth. If you start to feel more comfortable here, you can bring the block out of the way. You can soften the forehead all the way to the earth, or if it feels comfortable for the neck, you can send the gaze forwards and bring the chin to the earth. See if you can take 3 more breaths here in this posture at whatever pace you happen to be working to. And on your next inhale, just send the gaze forwards, make sure that the forearms are parallel to one another at the front of the mat, and then start to slide the weight of the body forwards onto the elbows. Shuffle the pelvis back, drop it down to the ground, and we're coming into a Sphinx pose here. So we want to ground down through the tops of the thighs and the tops of the feet. Spread the fingers wide. Just check in to make sure that the elbows are stacked directly underneath the shoulders. And then press down through the elbows to find lift through the chest. The shoulders should feel like they're rolling down and away from the ears, engaging the muscles in the back. So this is a really deceptive posture. In many ways it looks like just an easier, more relaxing version of a cobra or an upward facing dog, but there's still a lot of engagement required in the upper body here to find the alignment. Make sure that the neck isn't doing anything funky here either. Sometimes it can feel a bit lazy and drop back or drop down. For now, see if you can keep it in line with the rest of the spine. Take 1 more inhale. And exhale, release the forehead to the earth. Slide the palms of the hands back underneath the shoulders. Maybe just sway the hips from side to side. Release any tension or tightness from the lower back. On your next inhale, press down into the palms of the hands. Hug the elbows back in toward the ribs. Lift the chest from the earth. Find a cobra pose. And exhale to lift to your tabletop position. We're going to cross the legs underneath the body and bring them all the way around in front. So we've taken quite a few back bends today to work into the upper body. So we'll counter stretch just before we come down into relaxation for Shavasana with a nice easy forward fold. So depending on how much activity or what sort of activity you've done today so far, and especially if you're practicing first thing in the morning like I am today, it might be that your hamstrings haven't had much time to wake up yet, in which case you can keep a nice bend in the knees. Make sure the toes are flexed up toward the ceiling. As you inhale, sweep the fingertips forwards, up and overhead. And as you exhale, start to hinge from the hips, so lengthening from the lower back. See if you can keep the spine in a nice straight line at first, and then just grab a hold of wherever is accessible to you. Maybe that's the shins, maybe the ankles, maybe the outsides or the tops of the feet. Take a few deep inhales to lengthen through the spine, and exhale to see if you can fold. So even though we're counter stretching here from our back bends, this is still a really amazing stretch for the entire back body, not just the back itself, but the posterior chain, so all the way down the backs of the legs too. This helps to support the lower back and the hips in terms of healthy mobility and flexibility. It might be that after a few breaths you start to feel a little bit looser here, so maybe you are able to bring the legs a little bit straighter. And if in fact you would like to make this a little bit more of a restorative posture, you can release the engagement in the upper body altogether. Begin to invite a curve into the spine. Drop the head and neck down toward the earth. And maybe just sway from side to side or forwards and backwards over the legs. It doesn't matter how deep you come here, and I can't stress that enough. As long as you can feel a nice deep stretch through the lower back, through the upper back, through the hamstrings, the posture is doing its job. Just make sure that you feel comfortable. Take one more inhale. Start to slide the fingertips back up toward the body and roll through the spine to come back to a neutral position. And we're going to make our way down for relaxation. So bring a bend into the knees, just slide the tailbone a bit further forwards. Arms come out in front, palms up to face the ceiling. And exhale, roll through the spine. Nice and slowly make your way down onto your back, hugging the knees into the chest just for one final stretch here. You can give yourself a little massage for the lower back by drawing some big circles with the knees, pressing the base of the tailbone down toward the earth. And if it feels nice here, one final time to inhale and ball up nice and tight, squeezing through all of the muscles in the body. And then exhale to release to the earth for Shavasana. So standing the legs out long, feet relax a little bit wider than hip width distance apart. Arms come down by the sides of the body, palms turn up to face the ceiling. Begin to soften the space between the eyebrows, slacken the jaw, and release the tongue inside of the mouth. No longer controlling the breath, but simply observing the natural rhythm of your inhalations and exhalations. You could stay here for as long as you like, but if you'd like to start finding your way back out of Shavasana, then begin by inviting some more breath back into the body, lengthening your inhalations and deepening your exhalations. Maybe inviting some small movements back into the body by bending into the fingers and toes, or circling up through the wrists and ankles. If it feels nice to take one final full body stretch, take a deep inhale to float the arms up and overhead. Stretch through the legs. And gently exhale to bend the knees in and curl onto one side. And take this nice and slowly in your own time. Find your way back up again to a nice, easy seated position, maybe the one that you began your practice in. Returning the palms of the hands to the knees and softening the eyelids closed. Just take a few moments to become aware again of the sensation of the breath inside of the body. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth. Take one final deep inhale to float the arms up and overhead, connecting the palms at the top. And exhale, bring the hands to heart center, tilt the chin toward the chest, and inhale to open your eyes. Namaste.